Street photography is great because a lot of people have a hard time shooting regularly, and that's the only way you're going to learn if you're shooting every day. And street photography is the process of going out and shooting anything in the public eye, something on the street, right? And if you've got that wide a spectrum, but it's still focused, it'll get you out more often, right? If you're going out and say, oh, I want to shoot all the vendors on my street. You can go and you visit all your vendors and say, hey, Joe, how's it going? Hey, I'm doing this photo assignment, or this is my new hobby. I want to photograph you. You can shoot them that way. Classic street photography, there's no permission asked, okay? You go in, you're walking around the street, you see something unusual, and you take a picture. And then you walk by. You don't interface with the people at all. There are some people that are out there that are doing, I would say it would be like interactive street photography, where you go and you have a conversation with the person, you photograph them while you're having the conversation, and then in your blog or your diary, the image has a little bit of story behind it. So that's more photojournalism, but I really like, there's a guy in New York who's actually done very, very well for himself doing just that. With the street photography that I've done, I went out on the streets of Vancouver for 4 months in the winter, and I photographed people that were homeless, just living in the street, begging or whatever. And I went up to him and I said, hi, I'm a photographer, and I'm taking pictures of people on the street. Can I take your picture? And the beginning of that, I had a 90% fuck off rate. So, hey, get the hell out of here, or if you got any drugs, or give me some money. I said, no, I don't want to give you money. But what I will do is next week I'll come back and I'll find you and I'll give you a print of the picture I take of you. And eventually this one guy, said, oh yeah, okay, I don't care. So I took a bunch of pictures of him, and then I came back the next week and I gave him a print, a little tiny print. And then somebody else saw me doing this. Oh, what's that? So, well, I took a picture of this guy last week. Would you want me to take your picture? And he said, oh, okay. And from there, I ended up with like 4 books. And as soon as you have 4 books, you just give the books to the people you've never seen before and say, hey, check it out. If you find a picture of yourself, just take it. Or if you find a picture of your friend, you can take it and give it to your friend. So it took away this, like, I'm exploiting you because you're, you know, a street urchin and you have an amazing character and you look way more interesting than most average person. That's why I want to shoot, and that's my motivation, right? So it really opened up that whole world for me. So what is the best camera to use for street photography? Is it a snappy camera? Is it a high-end Nikon camera? Is it a phone with a cool adapter on it? What is it? Is it the Rebel because it sounds like what? You know the answer here, so you can't tell. He's so bad. He's so bad. It's the one in your hand. Because if you don't have a camera, how are you going to get the shot? And that's what street photography is. It's the art of walking for hours and hours over days and days with the camera in your hand, with the lens cap off, with it turned on, with the exposure set for the day. If it's a cloudy day, you kind of get a good idea what the exposure is going to be, or you have it on automatic, and you're looking for the shot. You're just looking for the shot. You're not looking for the shot with the camera to your face. You just got the camera in your hand, right? And you walk, and then you see a shot, and you grab the shot. And sometimes you'll see it in the distance, and you walk towards it, and you see it's getting closer and closer, and you get there, and you take it, and you keep going. So the actual taking, the composing, the capturing of the image is a split second, maybe half a second you've got to shoot. Maybe 1 second if you're lucky. Very rarely you get a chance to shoot 2 or 3 shots because by that time somebody's noticed that you've done it. Unless you're an amazing street photographer and you do it enough to enable yourself to shoot again and again. So for me, this is what street photography is. It's to tell a story. Now this is on a train platform. This is me waiting to go downtown, and I don't have my camera on me. I mean, I've got it in my bag. And I see this cookie, and then this guy comes up and stands there. And I said, oh my God, this is like a perfect story. It's like the poor cookie got killed by this guy's feet. And I had this debate. Should I take the picture? Should I take the camera out of my bag? Will the train come? Instead of just doing it. So I really was lucky that I got the shot. And I got a relatively quiet camera, and I got 3 exposures of this. 2 of them were out of focus. And this is the one that worked for me. you want to so you can tell a story, you want to document life, you want to observe and record, discover new things, have fun outside, and meet new people. That's what you want to do with your street photography. If you're an outgoing guide, say, hey, Joe, how's it going? Good to see you. Click, 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 click. You can be that type of photographer. But you still got to be the photographer. You can't be, hey, Joe, how's it going? You got your camera slung over your shoulder, and you never get around to bringing it up or asking him, can I shoot you? Or he's got your mechanic, and hey, Joe, my mechanic, how's it going? And he's got these gnarly hands because he's worked on engine his whole life, and they've got this amazing character. And say, oh my God, you got amazing hands. Can I shoot your hands? And I go, sure, Rob, you're such a weird dude, but okay, shoot my hands. Because if you're shooting black and white, the texture and all the life and the story comes out in the hands, and you just shoot the hands. You'd have to shoot the whole guy, just the hands. And when people look at the hands, they go, wow, that guy really, he's worked on, he's a farmer, or he's a worker or something. There's a big story behind it without showing a bunch of other stuff, right? So that's a way of like meeting new people, street photography. So, setting up your camera. This is how I recommend you set up your camera. And after lecture, we're going to go through how to set it up, okay? Basically, you set your camera at aperture priority. No, it's too slow. Way too slow. Remember, you got a half of a second, a 16th of a second to shoot. 99% of the time, I'm on aperture priority. And all that means is the manual part is the aperture. I will set the aperture, this is a 1.4 lens, so I'll set it at f2. So the aperture is stuck at f2. Then the camera says, it's stuck at f2. I'm just going to have to adjust the speed. So it'll adjust the speed to make a perfect exposure. But what that enables you to do is say, I want a really shallow depth of field in all my shots, so I'll have it at f4. If you were in a situation where you want a larger depth of field, well, then you force the f-stop to f8, f11, and then the camera compensates by becoming a slower shutter speed. But that's a great way to have your camera because you have all this control, but you also have all the automatic on the other end. It doesn't work as well with speed because with speed, there's not, I mean, you're either going to shoot with a slow shutter speed for blur on purpose, or you're going to be shooting on a fast shutter speed because of this action. So there's not too many experiences out there. There's much more stuff happening with focus and thinking about your depth of field. So that's why I recommend having it set on aperture priority, okay? A 50, a 35 mm or a 28 mm lens, and when I say 28, that's kind of pushing it for wide. It's pretty wide because you're getting into some distortion. This shot here with the Free Kisses guy, that was when I just started, and I was shooting with a 28, and I was getting frustrated because I would have to get so close to fill the frame. And one of the things, and this is from last year's our last lecture, was if you want your images to be more impactful, fill the frame with the subject material. So number one, decide what the subject is. Is it the duck? Is it the red car the duck's walking in front of? Or is it the green grass that the duck's walking off? Decide which one it is and then fill the frame with it. Don't try and get the duck, the red car, and the grass because it's a boring shot. But most people think, yeah, but if I have these three cool elements in, it'll be a better shot. Most people don't get that. There's no backstory about how the duck is a friend of yours and the red car, blah, 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 blah. So all sound turned off. Now, in your digital cameras, there is a function you can turn off all the sound with a camera that's got a physical mirror that flips up with a standard SLR. It goes chukunk, right? And with this camera, when I turn it on, and I'm taking a picture, I'm up here, and did you hear that shot? No? Okay, I'll come closer. It's such a quiet camera. Did you hear that one? A little teeny tiny click. But if you're downtown on the street, you're not going to hear that shot. So people are say, "Oh, who took my picture?" Right? You're there, but you're not there. And that is one of the arts of street photography, is to be able to be around people, do your thing, take pictures, but not be really obnoxious about it, where you're in the face of people, you're yelling at people, you're trying to make stuff happen. you know, that's not the way it works. Is you're there, you're really subtle. You might hang out for 30, 40 minutes in an area taking pictures, but you're doing it so subtly and softly that people see you taking pictures, but no big deal. I mean, you might run into some trouble if it's they're gang people or they get upset about it. I've had people come up and say, delete that picture, dude, that's not cool. I said, sure, no problem. Here you go, see, deleted, done. Now I'm gonna go over there, shoot your friend. And I go shoot his friend. And 2 weeks later, the guy said, man, can you get a shot of me? Because he'd seen the shots I was handing out. So don't worry about losing your shot. So as a photographic ambassador on the street, you want the subject's experience of being photographed to be as nice as possible. So the next photographer that comes along, they might get a better shot of that person, right? Don't muddy the water by being a jerk. Set ISO speed for ISO and speed for shutter. Basically what that means is if you're shooting on a sunny day, you have to be careful where you're shooting. Are you going to be shooting with somebody on the street with all this sunlight hitting because you have huge contrast, and contrast is basically the difference between the highlights and the shadows. If you have a huge contrast, that means you have really, really dark shadows and really, really bright highlights, and your camera cannot handle that many f-stops of difference, really. On a cloudy day, no, don't be using those settings, okay? No, don't, no. On a cloudy day, you have this beautiful softbox. You don't have all that shadow, so it's almost like you're in everything's under shadow, okay? But if it's a sunny day, what you do is you look for shadow, right? You walk on the shadow side of the street. So you meter for the shadow, right? You get your camera set up for the shadow. Even if you're in bright sunshine and you see your shot across the street, turn around, make a shadow, and meter off your own personal shadow. Lock the camera at that, and then go walk a shot, because you don't have a chance to walk across the street and set up your camera, okay, to take a shot for that particular exposure. And all I'm saying is you don't have to manually override your camera. You just have to make sure that you're going to get a fast enough shutter speed that it won't be blurred, or your f-stop isn't so small, like 1.4 is letting all this light in, and it's overexposing. Your camera's flashing. We're at 4,000th of a second, and it's still way too much light. So just see where you're sitting, okay? And then set your f-stop at 3.5 or lower. And what I mean by that is, I really think when shooting street photography, a shallow depth of field is great. It takes a lot. If you come up close with on somebody with a 35 or a 50 and take a picture, you want the background to kind of blur and go out of focus, because then the subject pops out. And exposure compensation. Now, what exposure compensation is a little dial on your camera which you can move back and forth, and all it does is it under and overexposes. It just basically it cheats the camera, and so the camera is always trying to get a perfect exposure. And the exposure compensation is, I don't care what you think. I want you to overexpose by one stop. I want you to underexpose by one stop. So underexposing means it gets darker, and overexposing means it's going to get brighter. Okay? So if you're going to a situation, it's always better to underexpose a little bit, because if you overexpose, you lose detail, right? If you burn out, there are no pixels there for you to play with. Slightly underexposed, it's a little bit dark, you can bring those pixels back in Photoshop or in Lightroom, no problem. But if it's blasted out, the sky's blasted out, then it's just pure white. There's nothing you can do. Okay? All right. So it's about meeting new people. I was shooting in Vancouver on Granville Street, and there's another shot later on. I was shooting this guy. He is just wailing on this Zatar. And he's so intense, he's got gloves on so he doesn't shred his fingers. And I was like in his face shooting. He's like, oh, after I asked, hey, can I shoot you? He said, yeah, I don't care. Shooting it. And this guy comes up and he says, oh, street photographer, cool. So we talked about street photography. And here he is. He has his, that's a Sony, I think, mirrorless camera. And he was out with his son taking pictures. So that was his thing. He would go out with his son. His son would skateboard on Granville Street because that's where it's cool, but he's only 15 or 16, so his dad wanted to be there with him. So his dad took pictures, and his son got to hang out at the same time in a cool place. So that really worked out. So he was into meeting people, photographing, and hanging out. You want to document life. One of the things that you have to be careful of is shooting into a window in Canada. If it's a private residence, you will be arrested because that's called voyeurism. And it's a law that you're not allowed to document or look in people's, you can be in the street, in the public domain. Like basically the way it works in Canada, if you're in the public domain, on the street, in public, you can shoot anything you can see, except somebody's house through the window. And the reason you can see it because it's lit inside. Can't do that. Everything else you can do. You can photograph somebody and they say, don't shoot me. And you say, okay, I won't shoot you. And if they say, erase that picture, that's illegal for them to ask you to do that. As the photographer, they're on the street and they have an expectation that they could be photographed. Now, my advice is, A, erase the picture. It's probably not a great picture anyways, unless it's an award-winning shot. But don't worry about it. It's much better, like we were talking about earlier, to make it a good experience for maybe people are photophobic or something like that. They just don't like it. But 99.9% of the time, people don't ask. You just shoot them, and they kind of they chuckle. A lot of times I go, hey, I'm doing some street, and I'll explain what I'm doing, type of thing. And say, oh, great. And that, would you want to do another shot? And I said, yeah, I do. Don't look at me. Go do your thing. Smoke a cigarette. Do something. And I'm going to come back, and I'll shoot you later when you're not noticing. And, okay, that type of thing. And I go away. I will never come back because he's looking for me, right? I'm not going to get a natural great shot. Now, these people don't know I'm photographing them. They're sitting there having a really nice date, looking at their computers. So it's a nice statement about the state of the world. Let's go have a coffee, hun, and look at our computer screens. Isn't that romantic? But that's me documenting life. Because it's a coffee shop, they have a reasonable expectation of non-privacy because they're in a public coffee shop. So legally, I can shoot from outside through the window and get their shot. Okay? Sure. Ah, okay. There's one with glare. Oh, look at all that stuff. All that gunk and stuff like that. But it makes it cooler. It makes it look, oh, yeah. I mean, that's actually condensation. Yeah, it's from there. It's real, right? I actually took a picture in the bus looking the other way, and then I got off the bus and I shot through, and I just love that shot. I mean, you don't really get the essence of it. You see a fine print of this. There's this girl sleeping here, and you can see every detail of her hair. It's like, it turned out awesome. But I was shooting on the bus, and then I got off the bus, and then I saw this, and I had to stop, and I shot again. Even though I shot these guys a couple times inside the bus. They were so tired and burnt out that they didn't notice I'd taken pictures of them. Okay? But they were on a bus, which is public transport. Oh, there's the guy wailing. Look at this guy go. This guy is dripping with sweat. I mean, he didn't care if he was making money on the street. He was just jamming. So, yeah, there's me. So you see new things, right? I mean, if you were walking down the street, you didn't have your camera, you weren't in your street photography or photography headspace, you said, oh, that's kind of cool, great. So where you want to go eat? You know, and you'd have walked on by and you would have remembered, yeah, there was that cool guy with his guitar. But if you're in photo mode, it's like, wow, that's crazy. I haven't seen a shot like that all day. This is I'm stopping, sorry. You guys go ahead and have a coffee. I'm hanging here for a couple minutes. And I went up, hey, it's okay for me to shoot you. Street musicians are great because they're in the public being, you know, they're exhibitionists anyway. So they're a great subject. Hey, I'm just going to shoot. And they usually go, yeah, whatever, I'm doing my thing. And they'll ignore you. So they're great practice material. And I took like 12 shots of the guy. I got a shot like this. I got one pulled. There's another guy listening to him. I thought that was kind of cool. So when you shoot, if you have the opportunity to take more than one shot, take many shots, as many shots as you can. I mean, don't go crazy. Don't put it on motor drive. Go, you know. Take a shot, think about it, change the angle, take another shot, think about it, change the angle. So, and I was coming in tighter and tighter and tighter on this guy. And this is with my 50 mil lens. So I was literally a foot and a half away from this guy. And he was wailing. I was, you know, probably getting sweat on my camera. But hey, I don't mind. It can handle it. Yeah. You know, You know, it's kind of cool, but you know, I don't care if I'm in the picture or not. It's kind of neat, but that's not what the picture is. If I saw the reflection said that's the shot, then I should have gone in and shot that, right? Could have, but I didn't think about it, you see? I was so excited about getting that shot that I stopped worrying about, oh, maybe I could try another shot. If you guys are with your telephoto lens, definitely that would have been an option coming in tight. It was a little scary the way that guy was going at it, right? Because I would have had to be like 6 inches away. And I have done shots like that, but usually with guys that are pretty stoned and they were pretty mellow or they're kind of drunk and they're going to a little bit. So you can get it real tight and it doesn't really affect them that much. But yeah, bumping into that guy would have been creepy. And then you can have more fun outside, okay? This is, that's just a little light bulb lighting her face, right? And this is what exposure compensation enables you to do, right? You've got your camera set, I'm shooting at probably f2 there. It's really not that dark. It looks a lot darker than it actually was. It was maybe, you know, as dark as this, maybe a little bit lighter than this, right? So the sun had gone down, it's getting a little darker. I mean, people aren't blurred, so I'm still shooting at a 30th of a second. Her foot here is a little bit blurred, but not that much. So maybe a 30th of a second. So it's relatively fast shutter speed. But I underexposed it by a stop and a half. Because right here, it's not overexposed. It looks a little bit bright because of the screen, but if you look at the fine print of that, you can actually see tonality where that highlight is. This is overexposed. The light source is blasted up, but that's okay, because that's not really what the subject's about. But it really makes some nice ambience. And then, of course, tell a story. Now, this is me walking around downtown. It's about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I see this, and then I see this guy about half a block away, and I see these guys about 100 meters away, and that's all I see is just this. And I'm going, man, that's not bad. And I went up some stairs, and nah, it wasn't working. I just liked this angle, but it was a dead shot. So I hung out, and that's the other trick about street photography. If you see something that's interesting, but not quite amazing yet, hang out, see what happens. Now, I saw this guy coming in his little scooter thing. He said the lights. Oh, this is nice. This is nice. And I'm looking here. These guys are coming. This guy's coming. Oh, my God, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I did 5 shots. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As they passed, and he came closer. And that was the one that worked out the best for me. That's all. I mean, there's maybe 2 shots that were great. But I never would have got that shot if I'd just taken that shot. I mean, it's an interesting shot. But by having the people passing him by, and I mean, it's so sad. It really brings some nice emotion. It really tells a great story. So that's another thing about street photography. If you see it, you might be a block away, and you see the shot. And, oh, that's nice, but the sun's not, oh, he's got a big shadow going right across his face. I can't do it. Oh, hang on, there's a big truck coming. It might, oh, the truck stopped. He doesn't have shadow on his face. And you're moving faster and faster trying to get to the shot. Or you get there, and there's something nice happening, but you see, maybe if I come back in 15 minutes or half an hour, the light will be better. So a lot of times photography is being there, seeing the potential, but the light's not right. Don't give up. Go have a coffee, go take some more shots, scoop around the block, and, it's not going to work. Oh, well, c'est la vie. I got some other great shots earlier on. It doesn't matter. But if you play the game that way, it can get really exciting. So, oh, this could be a good one coming up. And there's photographers that hang out 45 minutes, hour, 2, 3 hours for that light to be the way they need it to be. Not that I'm saying I want you guys to be doing that all the time. So that's basically it. Let me just go to my Hangout. That was, last time I went on and on and on, so I wanted to make it short this week so people didn't pass out on me. And where is it? So we're just going to stop this broadcast.